Alice squinted, trying hard to see the land around her in the dim light. Despite the night-like setting, she was sure that it was mid-afternoon. A quick look at her glow-in-the-dark watch confirmed that it was about 2:00 p.m. Goosebumps broke out on her arms as the wailing sound got louder. The place that had served as refuge for them all felt like a scene from a horror movie. She scooted closer to her friends, jumping slightly when a strong hand squeezed hers. She smiled sheepishly at Randall when she found the hand to be his. He smiled back, turning expectantly to look at Robert for further instruction. "We must make sure they know we are all here," Robert said, pointing to the sky and across the water to a neighboring island that Finola was sure had not been there when they left the last time. Large figures moved restlessly back and forth, and even though they couldn't see their faces, she knew they were being studied closely. Facing whatever was out there to announce their presence to, the small band of fighters raised their hands and began to use their gifts. Sparks flew out of Randall's hands and made contact with three large forms, the current passing from one creature to the next, causing a loud shrieking followed by the smell of burnt flesh. As the burnt flesh smell mingled with the sulfur, it created a nauseating odor and quite a bit of dry heaving, but thankfully no one tossed their cookies, Finola was pleased to note. For the first time in years, Randall did not experience a nasty aftershock, so he continued to unleash his powers on the shadowy figures across the way. While he was occupied zapping the competition, Eric sent out waves of sound that intensified the movement of the waves, reversing the current so that the water rippled up and pushed against the shore of the other island. He smiled as he saw the high white caps slap onto the beach, knocking down several of the figures on shore. While he was doing this, he also managed to silence the annoying wailing sound, giving them a blessed silence. Alice murmured a quick thank you before zapping out of view to travel to the far shore. She emerged behind the enemy, trying to get a look at what they were facing. In front of her stood 30 of those big creatures they had faced once before, Ornos. They were called members of Braka's elite guard. Large bloated beings with black flesh, 4 arms, and many eyes in their heads, they fought to kill. The only thing they feared was their leader. The element of surprise was the only thing that helped their group in the last battle. Hoping to repeat that advantage, she moved quietly behind the row of enemy soldiers, taking note of everything around her. Still in invisible mode, Alice watched as they trod the beach, throwing clods of dirt and sand into the air. Snorting like restless horses, they beat the ground with thick wooden clubs, all the while 3 sets of red eyes scanned the shore of Ollie's island. The burned bodies of the fallen beasts were kicked aside or thrown into the water to make room for others, large carcasses hitting the crashing surf with a dull thud before being carried out to sea. Making themselves visible seemed to be their only purpose at this time. It was as if they were waiting for something to happen. Which it soon did. Across the expanse of water, she could see Franklin create a large fireball. The fiery orb rose slowly into the air, creating artificial sunlight with its brilliance. It increased in speed as it floated skyward, and slanted off to hurl itself toward this very shore. Alice watched its flight with pride that should take down a lot of these brutes. Then she heard it, a sound that normally would have lightened her heart and brought a smile to her face. Now it only made her want to cry out in denial. Laughter rang out in the air behind her, loud enough to be heard even above the crashing waves and other sounds of battle. It was the most terrifying sound she had ever heard, for it was the laughter of children at play. Turning to see what she hoped was not there, Alice's worst fears